Hi everybody, it's Jessica, and this is another edition of Raleigh Rambles, where I process something that I'm thinking about out loud and share it with all of you. Today I want to talk about how you create a culture within a larger culture, and the reason I'm recording this video is because I wanted to do something productive and proactive about some anger and frustration that I was feeling this morning. Seems like very regularly, on a weekly or sometimes even daily basis, there are small to really large changes that happen on my calendar because of the culture of the system that we sort of work in my organization. And I've noticed over the past few years that people tend to come out of school-based roles or from other organizations into our organization, and then they almost sort of get absorbed by the system or sucked into it. And it seems to come from a place of, they try to resist for a while and they try to do their own thing, and then they try to fight back and they try to, change it. But the way that they try to change it is by sort of running up against the system itself or the culture that lives within that system, and it doesn't seem to be very effective. And I know that I have gone through this sort of progression myself, and you sort of get to the point where you just kind of give up, and then you just become bitter and frustrated and really annoyed all the time, or you become part of the problem. And it probably is usually a combination of both of those things, and I don't want that to happen anymore, at least for me. And so I've been thinking a lot lately about how my actions are really part of a sphere of influence that I have, and there's so many other things that are outside of my sphere of influence. But at the end of the day, the thing that I need to do a much better job at is being more thoughtful about the way that I react and am proactive about situations. And so I'm trying to be more positive. I'm trying to really sort of step up and advocate for what I believe in, and try to find other strategies to really sort of change the system around me or to help influence the system around me without it being the strategy of just, I'm going to keep running up against it until I can't do that anymore, and then I'm going to give up and I'm going to walk away, because that's not effective. And so, I think that there's this way that you can actually take your sphere of influence, and by really controlling that and focusing on that, you can impact change on the larger system. And I think that sometimes what happens is you actually take that sphere of influence and you start to grow what is within the scope of that sphere, because you are able to model and you are able to really help change the system from that smaller sort of locus of control. And so the thing that it got me really thinking about this morning is, what do I want my team to be? Because really, when I think about my team, that to me is my sphere of influence in an organizational sense. There are all these other teams and departments. We are a team within a department, within a bigger division, within this huge organization. And I can't control a lot of the other people or teams or things that are going on or decisions that are made. But what I do feel like I have a lot of control over, and not necessarily full control over, because really all I can control is myself, but I do feel like my sphere of influence is my team, and that should be my priority. First and foremost, always, it should be my team. And I really do believe that by focusing on that and prioritizing the people in my team and the culture that we have, and not ignoring the other things that are going on in our district, but always making that the priority and helping other people to see what that means for us, I think that we can impact change, and we can help others, to maybe be able to try something different. And through, because if you think about it, if each team really has a strong culture, that's how you can actually sort of have that mass effect, because you've got multiple teams now that have that stronger culture. And I guess it's similar to the way that I believe that one teacher can impact change, because that change grows. And I really wish that more teachers would see the power of their voice and how influential they can be, and that when multiple educators band together, that has so much critical mass, and that has such a huge opportunity to impact change on the system itself. So then I started thinking this morning, well, what do I want the culture of my team to be? What would that look like, if I were able to sort of set that tone or, continue to grow that culture? And so I started thinking about how I want my team to be a role model for other teams in my organization, and for the people in schools as well. And for me, that has a lot to do with modeling and being able to have other people look up to you. I really want other people to look at my team and to say, wow, I really appreciate the way that they're going about it, or I really appreciate, the process that they're going through. And for me, it's not just about the product. It's not just about what we put out there for other people, whether it's supports for teachers or coaching or actual projects that we create or are implementing. Those things are important, but for me, it's more about the process than the product. And I want people to be able to look at our process and to see something that that they believe in and that resonates with them and that they look up to, so that they can say, oh, maybe there's a piece of that process that I can take on. And in a lot of ways, that's a mindset, right? It comes down to what are the mindsets and the ways of working that those people on that team embody, and that creates the culture. So I want people to know that we're not perfect. I never want my team to feel like they have to be perfect, or they have to fake it, or they have to, pretend that everything is, a-okay, and that all the time they're on the right path. I want my team to be able to have lots of humility, but to be learners first and foremost, and to model what that looks like and be really transparent about it, and to be able to say, you know what, we tried this and it didn't work, and this is why, and this is what we've learned from it, and how we're going to do things differently next time. I think reflection is only so powerful as the actions that you then implement after the fact. A lot of times people lack reflection, but once they get to that point where they're better at reflection, it sort of ends there. And really what is so important is what you do with that reflection, how you act upon it later. And I think sometimes in the past, I and my team have been good at reflecting on things and acknowledging things that went well and things that didn't go well and some of the challenges. But we struggle sometimes with what to do with that information and how to make that, a beneficial future endeavor, and how to take all of that learning and piece it together and change our practice or change our project, or do better next time. And so I want my team to be able to do that, and to be able to show others what we've learned from that reflection and learning, and from all of the conversations that we've had. I also want a culture that's very values-based. I really believe that if you have a values-based culture, and that everybody is able to bring their different values to the table, and that, as a whole, that means that you have this wealth of values and knowledge together as a team, that creates such a values-based culture, because everybody is representing sort of those values that they believe in, and also helping other people to think about that. Because my teammates have different values than I do, or not different values, but because sometimes the first perspective they take is different than the one that I would first approach something with, that helps me to later always think about that. Even when that teammate isn't in the room, I'm going to think, okay, what would happen if they were here, and what would they say, and how would they handle this? And that makes me a better, stronger representative of our team, really. The other thing that I think is important is that you have a culture that's really open and honest, and that you're able to challenge each other, and do so in a really kind and caring way, and to have empathy for people. And I think that you can have empathy without creating a culture of excuses. I think some people confuse empathy and sort of an excuse-based culture, and those two things are very different. I can challenge you on something, and I can say, I don't think that you are actually following through with this, or I don't see where you've been trying to change this behavior, or to create something better with this work that you're doing. I can challenge you on those things, but I can also do so with empathy. That doesn't mean I'm just going to say, oh, you that was hard for you, or you didn't get to it, or I'm not just going to let you off the hook all the time. I'm going to challenge you on that. But by doing so with empathy, it allows people the chance to learn and grow, and to feel like it's a worthwhile endeavor to try to change. Because if you don't use empathy in those situations, really all you're doing is shutting people down. If you just challenge, and you do so without any empathy, you're going to cause people to shut down and to give up, and to say, well, why bother? I never can do anything right. It's not going to matter. I've been trying, but you clearly don't see that. You have to have empathy when you're doing that. And I want my team to really embody that kind of, challenge with empathy sort of piece together. I also think that it's really important for my team to be, just friendly and fun. And I've been noticing lately that as I look around my organization, it just doesn't seem like people are having very much fun. And sometimes fun can mean just being silly, or joking around, or, taking a few minutes to just not be so stressed about work, and just, kind of relax. All of those things are fun. But I also think there are ways that you can have fun while you are also moving forward with the work. There's sometimes this sense of urgency needs to translate into stress, and I don't think that that's necessarily the case either. Sometimes urgency can mean stress, but really we should always be working with urgency, because our kids and our teachers and our principals are in schools every single day, and they have to live within that urgency. But how in education can we act with urgency without constantly being reactive and acting with stress? I think that's something we need to work on more, both just as our team culture, as well as just a greater, educational sort of systematic way of working, because the urgency should always be there, but I don't think that means we have to be stressed all the time. Again, it's that's how we all burn ourselves out. We just keep running up against the wall, and eventually we just have to stop because we can't do it anymore. I want to figure out a way to always act with urgency, but to not let that like wear me down or cause me to have to just sort of like throw up my hands and be like, this is too stressful and overwhelming and I just can't keep doing this anymore. I have to walk away. So I think those things are important too. Another thing that I need to do some more thinking about is how we practice what we preach as an organization. I would really like to see my team, again, be that role model that people can look up to and say, oh, I can see the connection between the way in which you are working and the beliefs or values or strategies or initiatives that as a whole organization, we have said that we are really focused on. So one of the things that my district has been talking about lately, or wrote down on paper and was talking a lot about, and I haven't really seen it happening in as many places as I would like, is that every classroom should be joyful, rigorous, and personalized. Now that can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people, and that's one of the things that we need to figure out as an organization is, what does that even mean? But I would love to see my team be able to make sure that the way that we are working is very joyful, making sure that we can show where there is rigor in the tasks that we're doing, both as individual learners and leaders, as well as just, as a team. And the third piece is that personalized piece, which I think is really, really important for us because that is our work. And so, while I would like to see the curriculum and instruction team find personalization in their work, but it's even more important, I think, for my team to model personalization because that's going to be able to translate to the way that we support people and the things that we are asking of them. And sometimes that just means I need to struggle through this in the same way that I'm going to ask you to struggle through it. A lot of times innovation and change management and the kinds of things that we're trying to really help people with in their schools, it takes trial and error, and there are some things we all have to figure out still. There's a lot of it that's new, and we don't know the best way to implement it or go about it or what's going to work for this classroom versus that classroom. And I think similarly, we need to be doing that work ourselves and making it really meaningful, not as sort of just like a role play where I'm going to pretend to be a teacher and then see what that would mean to personalize my classroom, but to really truly feel what it is like to be a learner in a personalized situation, to really truly feel what it's like to have to facilitate a personalized professional learning session. I also think that it is important for me to keep thinking about the ways that my own philosophy of education can show up in my team culture and can really become a part of the way that we work. What I mean by that is that, I have a very strong sort of set of beliefs that create my philosophy of education and what I want every child to have access to. And that really was living and breathing in my classroom every day. And once I left the classroom, I think there were a lot of places where I could have translated those learnings and understandings and beliefs into something slightly different in my new role. But that sort of transfer kind of got lost a little bit. And I think there are some places where I could think about, what do I believe in terms of relationships and community building? And what do I believe, worked really well in my classroom to give kids choice or to really make sure that their voices were heard? And how can I take those things that I really believe in and bring that into the culture of my own team and the way that I work with others, both on my team and collaboratively, across departments? I went to see Angela Duckworth speak in my district last night, and she was talking about sort of these three types of character qualities, and she sort of categorized them into three buckets. And the three buckets were strengths of will, which are things that you can act on. Those would be sort of the grit, perseverance kind of mindset things that you could focus on. And the second bucket was strengths of heart. So she talked a lot about how it's really important that the kids and adults have the qualities of compassion and empathy. And then that third bucket were strengths of mind. She kind of categorized each as intrapersonal, so those are the strengths of will, interpersonal, which would be your strengths of heart, and then intellectual, which would be your strengths of mind. And how those three things combined together really create an opportunity for a growth mindset, for people to be really highly successful and to be able to find their passions and their talents and to make sure that they are constantly happy and healthy in their own skin, so to speak, as well as contributing positively to those around them. And so I also want to think more about that. How could I take those sort of three buckets of strength and create this holistic picture of not just who I am as a person, but how that creates a really strong culture on our team, and what are the types of strengths of mind, strengths of heart, and strengths of will that we need in our work to be the most successful and to be the most supportive to one another. So all kinds of things that I'm thinking about, but I really enjoyed having a chance to just take some time to think about, what is in my sphere of influence and how can I create a culture on my team that is both productive and meaningful, but also, honors individuals as well as the whole. And I think that if we can figure that out and we can really share that, model it, and be super transparent about, what we're doing and why we're doing it, I think that that might be the key to creating a wider sphere of influence and impacting change on the bigger system without feeling like we're just running our head against the wall all the time. So I'm going to keep thinking about that. If you have any thoughts about it, I would really love to hear them. But I hope everybody is doing well, and I will talk to you all very soon.